So good morning, Malcolm.
Morning, John. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
good to see you. Yeah, we always start like that, don't we?
We do.
Okay, so our question this morning is what's different about this second lockdown? Obviously, Wales has just come out of a lockdown, and in England we're back under lockdown until the 2nd of December. Great news about the vaccine. That's I think that's really cheered up a lot of people. That does really seem to be on the horizon. That's great. But meanwhile, the virus hasn't gone away. People need to be careful. So we're in this lockdown again. None of us wanted it, and the churches have been asked not to meet, to take a step back again from where we were meeting with social distancing. So it's not easy. What do pastors need to bear in mind? So we're thinking about what is different then about this second lockdown. What is different about the second lockdown? So first of all, Malcolm, are there some things we can be thankful for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, schools are open again. That's a big plus. A lot of parents really struggle with having the children at home and trying to teach them, and also a lot of them working from home. My daughter and husband in Leeds were stuck with that, and then everybody's on the internet at the same time, and then it crashes, and all that kind of stress. It really was bad. A lot of people were having to work very long hours just to get through their normal day, So that's a plus, isn't it? Also, I think we've got a bit more of a handle on the technology. It's still a bit of a mystery to many of us, and it does kind of go its own way sometimes. But we've learned a lot, which I think we can use in the future. Not because we have to, in that sort of only method way, but because it's a useful tool, isn't it?
That's what it is. Yeah, and I suppose that is to be borne in mind. I mean, we must be careful that church doesn't slip on to being online, but nevertheless, there is stuff that we can bear in mind. And of course, hopefully we've learned, we've got strategies in place for caring for people during lockdown. Perhaps we're a bit more aware now of not just who's vulnerable to the virus, but perhaps who's vulnerable, mental health wise, and needs support within our congregations. And perhaps we're a bit more able to know who we need to get around and, do a phone call with, or a text, or a walk in the country with, or something, a little pastoral visit to keep them going. So, and of course, we should pray that this second lockdown, does do its job, that the R number, this crucial index, actually does come down below 1. So, okay. On the other hand, though, I know lots of people are finding it tough. So, second, what are the negatives about the second lockdown? What have you got to say about that?
Well, I was struck by a verse in Proverbs. It's this one in Proverbs 13:12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. This idea of sort of raised expectations and then dashed hopes, that can get to people, and I think the second lockdown hit people a bit hard in that way, particularly people who are isolated and so on, who are just beginning to sort of feel their way back into normality, and then suddenly, they're behind locked doors, and a lot of other people with medical needs have been delayed again. That's quite serious for some people, and that can be depressing for whole families when somebody who's got a serious illness has had their appointment put off again and again and again,
Yes.
So that's hope deferred, isn't it? Your expectations.
I've come across, one little church, right? The pastor just said something about, his elders are kind of withdrawing a bit, as if, they're just a bit worn down, and, so, as you say, discouragement. Others, apart from discouragement?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that weariness is another thing, isn't it? Just weariness, really, with it. And also, as we're going into this a winter period now, the days are shorter, the nights are longer, and people who are on their own need to be prayed for. The phone is still a good tool. We've got all this tech, but let's go with a telephone call, because you can't actually beat it for a proper chat. One of the problems with face-to-face stuff is everybody's kind of, cutting across each other, and the children come running in, and then the cat jumps in front of the screen. And all you know, it's a bit much, isn't it? A proper chat is good, isn't it?
What about in the run up to Christmas? You know, people perhaps were planning for Christmas outreach or something.
That's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah, I think churches are going to struggle with that. Really, we don't know how much we can do, even after the release of the next lockdown, do we?
No, actually, our own church here is planning some little kind of Christmas scenes in the front windows of people who live in the area of the chapel, and a kind of a little trail, you know, for kids to follow, and that kind of thing.
That's a good idea.
And obviously, there's lots of stuff that can be done online as well.
You know, I like the idea of the window. I think in Bristol, where my daughter lives, they have an art trail in their neighbourhood, and people put an art display with lights on in the autumn and winter, and it's really good. And families go around looking at it. You know,
that's right. So I think churches could try and plug into that kind of thing. But also, what's on my mind as well is, I mean, there's divided opinion in the churches, you know, which pastors I think need to try to heal during the second lockdown. I think we all went into the first lockdown hoping for the best, but now some have been angry about the government's choices. You know, they don't always get it right. And what's unfolded over the months, and there's been a bit of sort of friction between Christians and a bit of friction in the churches generally, about what should have been done, what shouldn't, you know, have been done. But right or wrong, that doesn't really kind of help the peace and the kind of atmosphere of worship. So you've got anything to say about sort of just bringing people together?
I think we need to remind people that wherever we are in this life, there's going to be frustrations, there are going to be disappointments and so on. This is not our home. I was thinking about this whole question of the Christian's life being hidden with Christ in God. That's our ultimate identity, isn't it?
It is.
There was a great quotation I read from John Owen in Sinclair Ferguson's book on the Christian life. And basically it's about the fact that God is faithful to his promises, his covenant holds, it's ratified by the death of Christ. God is unchangeable. The fruits of his death will certainly be bestowed on all of those for whom Jesus Christ died. Our salvation is sure. You know, we've got to hold on to these big truths again, haven't we?
We have, and keep bringing them before the people. I mean, I think lastly, we need to say pastors need to pace themselves. I mean, you know, it's a second lockdown. You know, these things are heavy. I mean, you know, perhaps if things are really tough, you know, perhaps the congregation will, you know, understand a kind of a rerun of a sermon series you did 3 years ago or something, which, you know, just would take the pressure off you. Because I've come across a couple of men, you know, just a bit burnt out and just having to step back, and you know, we just have to pace ourselves, don't we, in all this.
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing, I suppose, is that we can minister to our congregations with the hope that the end is in sight. You know, if this vaccine proves as good as advertised, it won't be long before we can be back together in church, normal, and we can sing. So I'm hoping that will be it. Anyway, good to talk to you, Malcolm. God bless.
Right. Bye for now.
Bye.